My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast, and it's semi-final week.
No, it's la French week.
La
Très chic.
La France.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi?
Ça pas pour moi. Ça pas pour moi.
Merde.
Ça pas pour moi. Ça pas pour moi.
Jammy, lovey.
Babysitters Club. Anyway.
Back from Eurovision.
Back to where we go. You might have heard a noise in the background. We're not even going to pretend. Robert, how are we going?
Oh, good. How much fun was this episode?
Well, it would have been much more fun for you than the last time you saw the first challenge. Yeah.
In the Bakeoff context.
Yeah, we'll just launch right into it. But
how have you been, Robert? How's life?
People can
great. The PTSD is finally calming down. Yep.
Yeah, they can find out how Robert in the Food Nerd Vanity Project. You can find that out.
So what were you saying, Robert?
Say great. The PTSD after the Great Australian Bakeoff version of the crepe cake, that's finally starting to wear down a little bit.
Okay, so for those people in Canada who may not have had the fortune, of course, to see the Great Australian Bake-Off, first of all, what are you doing? We can watch the Canadian one, and we're not in Canada. But more importantly,
true story.
More importantly, Robert in the last series of Great Australian Bake-Off was absolutely flying, and then crepe cakes happened.
He creped himself.
Yeah.
Face planted into a pile of them just about.
Yeah.
He did indeed crepe himself. Yeah. So
a normal crepe cake, milk crepes, it's about 20 layers. They asked on the Great Canadian to do 25. That's perfectly logical. On Australian Bake-Off, they went, okay, we'll give you 4 hours to do a crepe cake, but you've got to do 60 layers of crepes at least. And that's fine. I practiced it at home, and I only had the one pan, but I also had the really decent gas burner at home.
Yeah.
And I was able to flip out enough crepes in an hour and a half to get my 60 with no problems. That was all right. In the Bake-Off shed where the sides are open and you've got a piddly little gas burner, I'm
going to talk to you about that later, actually, because there was something I noticed in this challenge that I assume would make you insanely jealous, and we'll come to that in a minute. But we have to launch into the episode properly. There's one real way to launch into the episode properly.
Mm.
Dun, 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 So,
totally.
Mengling revealed to us.
Oh, what a legend.
She revealed to us that she's only been baking for 4 years.
The age of her dog.
Yeah, well, that was my follow-up question. How old's Nimbus? Because if Nimbus is 4,
then
that theory about she only bakes for Nimbus.
Pretty true.
It could hold.
You know?
Checks out.
What inspired you to start baking, Robert? A dog or other animals?
Birthday parties?
Mostly my stomach. I like to eat food, so it helps to know how to make it.
I like the idea that it's dog birthday parties that inspires bakers worldwide. So they announced it was the crepe cake.
Yes.
Now they showed it on the preview last week. I didn't expect that we were going to get the crepe cake first.
But you were surprised.
I thought it was going to be a showstopper.
Whoops, there's some crepe cake right there.
We're starting with crepe cake.
Drop some crepe on you.
Because I could see last week they showed all of them, and I wrote down in my own notes before I started what I thought the order of the challenge was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was completely backwards. I did not get one of them in the right spot.
No.
All 3 of them were in a different spot than I would have thought. Now, they got 2 hours.
Mm.
They had to make 25.
Yes.
Layers. And 25 layers, and they could not have anything holding them up. Some people took that far more literally than others. So let's get into what they made.
Yes.
So now Megan started with a vanilla bean and orange liqueur. So again, when in doubt, throw booze at it. And she had her hint of orange.
Which is nice.
But her hint of orange was very fucking orange.
It looks similar to the mango pancakes, like in the kind of colouring.
It looked a little bit similar to mango pancakes. So some of you can hear in the background, our dog Leo agrees. It was very orange. And Bruno looked at it and was like,
Robert is currently giving us a look now like, there is never too much orange, you know? Like, he can't.
Which one had the kumquats? Was that the one with the kumquats as well?
Oh, you better believe it was one with the kumquats.
Yep.
My thing was, though, like, I would have thought that the orange would have been appropriate, given you were looking for layers and colour.
Yes,
like,
that was great.
Like, you're not going to complain about, oh, my God, that's really orange.
Well, they were a little worried. They thought it might be a bit too...
What, orange?
Fluoro.
Thought it was a bit too high vis.
But when she was talking about her inspiration, I was thinking of, like, the splices, like, you know, like the pine lime splice with the vanilla
So for those in Canada, vanilla ice cream in the middle, icy around the outside.
Yeah, pine lime usually.
Now,
it's orange.
Now, Megan used 2 pans. So that obviously is a step up on using 1 pan.
We've invited Robert on, and all you've done so far. No, hi, Robert, how are you? Welcome to the podcast. Great to have you on. Just being, crepe cakes, bitch.
In fairness, it's the dumbest thing I've done on the show, and that includes...
He agrees. I should be beating him over the head with this.
Yep.
Literally. You know what? I can beat you over the head with 2 crepe pans. But actually, on the crepe pan front, I wasn't the only person. I know you noticed, but did you notice that there were only 2 of them using crepe pans, and the others were just using like regular? And in Meng Ling's case, she was using all sorts of shapes, but like there were 2 of them using the crepe pans, and there were 2 of them just using regular frying pans.
Yeah, so crepe pans make it easier if you because you don't have to dig around to get under the lip of the crepe, so you're not going to destroy it when you try and turn it over. But there's no reason why you can't use a regular frying pan and get uniform crepes, so long as you use like a cup measure or something, or a quarter cup measure each time, and then you've got the same amount of batter each time.
I don't know,
and you just spread it around and you're fine.
The look on Rochelle and Bruno's face when she's gone, oh, you're going to watch me make this first crepe, okay? And she just grabs the Pyrex measuring jug and just puts it in. And like,
oh my God. Like, Rochelle can give such a look, like the concern on her face, you could bottle it. Holy crap.
Rochelle, I know. Rochelle's like got this look of horror, and then like Meng Ling puts it in the pan, pokes it a bit, and then you get, oh no. Oh dear. Dear me. And then she flips it out and it's burnt. That was the first one.
In fairness, the first crepe is always shit house. There's no nice way of putting it. The first crepe is always like...
It's like whenever you're going to fry anything, you know, if you're going to fry a poppadom, the first one's always shit.
But in this case, she started as she meant to continue.
Oh.
They all kept burning, and she just kept on doing the same thing. And I'm like,
I would have given anything for a pan that burned grapes on it. But anyway, moving right along.
I can only hope for a pan that burns.
Happy
Pete, that's such a novel idea for cooking. Anyway.
Now as Robert pointed out, though, measuring is handy. And Andre was very precise, which, to be fair...
Is Andre all over?
It's Andre. Yeah. It's going to be precise. Mm. So Andre was there very carefully measuring out each crepe, going, I don't want to do too much and I don't want to burn it. He turned his first one over and, that one burnt a bit. Let's do this again.
And it looks perfect.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, get that in my face. That's what she said.
That's what she said.
I meant crepe or... Anyway, so back to the crepe. But it worked for him. Like that, you know, that precision pulled off. Yep, that's what she says.
It's terrifying.
Oh dear.
Meng Ling, by the way, went with Mont Blanc. And did anyone else notice the gold leaf?
Oh, at the top.
Now, I do have to point out, and I'll mention it now. I was going to mention it then, but I'll mention it now. Mm-hmm. Meng Ling takes zero care with every single part of this challenge, except. She used tweezers and very delicately lowers into place the gold leaf and delicately places it like it is the most precision thing she has ever done in her life. It is like somebody burning a Sunday roast completely to the point of ashes and charcoal, then taking great care in thinly slicing the charcoal so it was served to the right consistency. It was amazing. Like, no care on anything. And then it's like, delicates?
Look, I just don't think you understand Nimbus's high expectation. Okay? Give zero fucks about the presentation of the food itself, but you know, you give him a dodgy friggin' like decoration and he will bite you. Like, that dog has got an attitude.
It's his birthday, damn it. It's always his birthday. So
sadly I can relate to this care taken with the tiny little thing like so much. I had so many plans, so many plans when I was doing mine. And of course, when you're going 60 crepes high, it just doesn't have the structural integrity. And I went one solid block. So I wanted to kind of do like a surprise cake where it's, you cut into it and it's a crepe cake. Yay. Great idea in theory. In practice, absolutely terrible idea. So I'm wrestling with a tree stump worth of like looking crepes, which hadn't had time to set up. So they're just like swaying with the like weight of the crepes on top of them. I've run out of time to do my decoration, so I very carefully put my crappy little chocolate flowers on the top, which were just bashed out in seconds, but they were placed with care.
Melt crepe cakes.
True. Oh, and then I look around and you've got Claudia with a 3-tier breathtaking like Black Forest crepe cake with chocolate work.
I did share it the other week, but if you haven't seen that and you're from look up Great Australian Bake-Off Black Forest crepe cake.
It was incredible.
To temper chocolate trees.
Yep. And then I look across at Barb and she's got the most elegant cake I have ever seen like made in crepes. It's just delicate and lacy and it looks like and there's me trying to place a flower on top of it. Like, it's like, talk about polishing a turd. Like
it's like that
I get
moment,
it.
It's like that moment in The Simpsons. It's like that moment in The Simpsons when Maggie has to decide between the Flanders and the Simpsons. And she looks at the Flanders and there's the rainbows and the butterflies and the beautiful water, and they turn around and the Simpsons are in a swamp. It's a bit like that. You know, there's this beautiful crepe cake with the tempered chocolate, and there's Robert. To be honest with you, though, I said this at the time, I will defend this. I loved the fact that you actually tried to make it a cake enclosed.
Yeah.
Like I said, it looked like a cake, not a stack of crepes.
But while we were waiting for judging it set up, and it was bloody delicious, it just was not as attractive as everyone else's at all.
Now, what they did have that you didn't have, they have induction stovetops.
Yeah, there are pros and cons with induction cooktops. They are very quick to heat, and it's really easy to control the heat on them. Once you know what you're doing with an induction cooktop, they are bloody marvelous.
Oh, yeah. I love our one. But that could have helped you as opposed to temperamental gas burners.
Yeah. Yep. It's great when you're cooking and the flame is somewhere about 10 centimeters to the left of the pan.
It looks like you're being all fancy and like moving it around.
Yeah.
Reality.
No, you're just trying to chase the heat around.
I'm trying to find the flame. I was waiting for the end of that challenge. You just there with a Bic lighter, just sort of under the pan.
What you should have done is what we did when we were at Girl Guides, right? Okay, another Girl Guide story. Here we go. Sorry. Get a Milo tin and you turn it over, right? You poke some holes around the bottom and you put the little candle underneath and you cook your pancakes on the Milo tin.
Marvelous.
Oh, nice work. So,
if you think that, you know, you had very uneven heat, try having half raw, half not so raw pancakes on a Milo tin. It always sounds
could be delicious.
No. It wasn't really.
No, it really couldn't. However, you know what did sound absolutely delicious? Andre's. So Andre made coffee maple. And
it was a coffee cream as well.
So,
he made a mocha chocolate.
And
without the mocha or the choca, just mostly the latte. A maple
Creole maple marmalade. Anyway, that was a really long bow, and we sort of drew that one. I apologise in advance.
Wouldn't it work better to say coffee maple marmalade? But whatever, go on.
Coffee maple malt crepe. Oh, this sounds wrong.
Oh, anyway.
No. Moving on. Next.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to CBC's latest hit series, Such in the Kitchen. And what is Such in the Kitchen this week? It's the description of coloured layers. He did a very professional job of describing the differences in the blackberry and the raspberry layer. And what I love, and it's not a shock. It's not a shot at all. It's a brilliant thing. He steps back and he has this presenting like he's got his own show already. It's perfect. I'm just going to alternate the layers. Now, what you're going for is you want the red layer, and then once you've got the red layer, then you want the blackberry layer, and so you want the colour and the colour and the. He does it so well.
Canada, like CBC, is trying to combine their pilot week with their shows?
Quite possibly,
because we've got Dan and Mengling.
Oh, Dan and Mengling, and that show took on a whole new meaning.
Such in the kitchen.
Such in the kitchen. Devon schools in. Got to pitch that to him at some point. And there's a whole pile of other goth farming with Megan.
Yes.
And Andre round the world in 80 days. And that's, he's going to host the brand new version of that.
I'm thinking of better gnomes and cauldrons, from Megan.
I don't know. I'd really like to see Andre become a less pretentious Keith Floyd.
Yes.
He could do that so well. Maybe not advertising.
Who's Keith Floyd? Who's Keith Floyd?
Oh dear, Robert.
Hey, come on, enlighten.
You're off Food Nerd Vanity Project. Keith Floyd. No, he's a very, very pompous British chef who used to wear a sort of like cricketing style hat and like very pastel colours and go around the world and tell people how to bloody well cook their food. And they did a series of continental pasta and sauce commercials.
All right, so like Rick Stein, but less pleasant and with less fish.
Far more pretentious. He was before Rick Stein. He was Rick Stein, yeah.
Oh, splendid. Right.
He was very colonial.
Mm.
Apparently he was a great guy. He was always rip-roaring drunk on all of his specials. So again, colonialism. So Sachin was making blackberry and raspberry layers and he was using almond crepes. And there was an alert. We had a Bakeoff alert.
Yeah.
Rose water.
Ooh.
Rose water. Rose water. And
this summer, Bakeoff presents Rose Water. A baker's nightmare.
I'm dying. Rose.
We could also add. Going down. Yeah.
Bruno looked terrified when he said the word rose water. Bruno's like, you know what happens with rose water? He's like, yeah, I'll be careful. I promise you I'll be careful.
I just feel for all the other flowers, like obviously, like maybe daisy water didn't take off or geranium water just sounded like too like full of germs.
And tulip water sounds like something else entirely.
Poppy
given
water,
it's Dutch.
just
yeah. Osmanthus had a bit of a pop-up on actually I think even Mengling might have used it or Mengling or Tim, one of them. Dave used it last season on Bakeoff as well, but again, Osmanthus just isn't as pretty sounding as Rose.
Yeah, that appeared. I do remember actually.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, back to Gadget. Now Gadget. Okay, Gadget had a number of issues with this challenge, and there were a couple of times
she saw the writing on the wall. She's like, "It's me, Megan, Andre, and Sachin. I've got no fucking hope. I'm just going to do it my way."
And her way involved all sorts of special things. Now, the first thing that this involved was that when Mengling looked at her stack of crepes, they were all burnt. None of them were to any form of size whatsoever. So we cut back to Mengling, who has a ring and is cutting all of her crepes to the right size. Now this was where Rochelle later on, when she judged it, said, if your crepe making was a little bit better, you wouldn't have to cut your crepes to the right size. They would just naturally be the right size. But what I did notice about Mengling was that the pan she was using two different sizes completely. One big one small one. That didn't seem to be a deliberate choice.
I still feel like she's the Leroy Jenkins of the episode. Like, she's just like, okay, you need to go in, do it all precise, blah, 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 and mainly just running and grabbing sausage. kitchen.
Charging through the kitchen. and so at that point, they put Dan back with her. So this was where, okay, so bear with me here, people at home.
I would pay a lot of money to see a show with Dan and Meng Ling. I'd just let them loose on the world and watch what happens, because holy crap, they are fascinating.
CBC,
absolutely fascinating. I would pay anything to watch that.
Okay, so what I think happened is, so this was the point of the show where Meng Ling and Dan
each to go around cooking for people's dogs, and Dan has to like find like the.
I like the idea. I just like to forget the dogs. I just like the surprise kitchen idea where Meng Ling is the most surprised person in the kitchen. But what was more important with this moment was Dan and Meng Ling were trying to explain to each other what Meng Ling was doing. And I don't know who was more confused. So Dan turns around and says, chestnuts on top, then the cream inside. And Meng Ling went,
and white chocolate.
Pause. Also chestnut cream inside, and looked at Dan, laughed, and went, I'm confusing you. That possibly just sums up the Meng Ling ethos. I'm confusing you.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. It's amazing.
Look, it got it to 4th.
It's great television.
In fairness, like, she got picked on for the crepes being overcooked, but I like a bit of a crispy crepe. I like the crunchy bit on the outside. Hers is the one that I'd really love to dig into.
Crunchy, you've got a bit of lemon and sugar like on it.
Oh, yeah.
That's nice. But
like, hers is the one that I went, oh, yeah. That sounds really good. Like white chocolate and chestnut and crispy crepes. Hells yeah. I can handle a little bit of an overdone crepe for that combination. That sounds freaking delicious. But anyway.
At this point as well was when they talked about now they have to assemble it with thin layers. And they cut back to Meng Ling, who had put most of her cream on the first crepe.
Well, it wasn't going to fucking fall over, was it?
No.
It is less cream and more of like, what's that? Water. She's just like added some lime into
Meng Ling's like all the weight at the bottom.
There's a trowel. She's not using like a... She's got a trowel.
She's calling in a cement mixer to drop the rest of the cream on the first
Kevin
layer.
McLeod wanders by and goes, this is a really interesting way to use this technique.
Eco-design.
building on Jane's.
So,
oh my God, Dan and Meng Ling's Crepe Castle. And the whole thing, like, so they go around and do the surprise kitchens, but the whole melodrama of it is this, like, 12-long-week project of building a castle out of crepes.
And all the show is going to be is Dan trying to explain what's happening. In the background, you just hear into a microphone, oh no, oh dear, oh well. And Dan.
And coming up next on CBC, Dan and Meng Ling's Castle in the Sky. Yeah, no, just why?
It's on a cloud called a nimbus cloud.
Yes.
Even Leo approves outside. And with that, let's get back to one of my other Dan moments of this or any other series. Megan. So he goes back to Megan's bench and he's looking at all the food, and Megan just turns around and goes, eat it, pop it in, pop it in, pop it in. That's what she said. And what I loved was Dan puts it in his mouth and just can't cope. And then Megan, just pissing herself laughing in the corner, goes, it's the first time you won't take any extras from my station. It was so well done.
What was it that she gave him?
Kumquat.
It was a kumquat. The look of betrayal on Dan's face.
He's like, well, the first part of it sounded delightful.
Oh.
I went there. Oh, people, I've been holding off.
That's what she said. So, no, but the... what I actually
yeah, but that's just mean. It's like kicking a puppy. How can you do that to Dan? Come on.
Make them a cake. Happy birthday, Nimbus. It's been about 7 weeks. Happy birthday. Must be. Happy birthday, Nimbus.
Yeah, she deliberately threw this week. So she has to get home and bake for Nimbus.
Had to bake for Nimbus. So, no, actually, I liked what she did when she made the little bubbles with the kumquats in them. That was really cool. Megan did a really nice job of that. Megan just did a really nice job this week.
Her presentation seems simple but refined. You know what I mean? Like there's like little details. Like every time you looked at it, there's something else to find. And like when she just popped out that ice block to whack on top, you know, it's just.
And the fact we got the big when she popped it out too, you can hear the big. So that was really cool. So we got into the judging. Now, as I said, after Mingling had very delicately placed the gold leaf on top. So. Yes, Megan's was they said, playful and creative. And Rochelle really rode over on the idea of that fine sugar work. And her sugar work is just getting better and better.
Yeah.
They said the layers were amazingly even, and the two tones was really clever, and the flavour was just sublime.
Delightful.
Sachin's, they said it was really beautiful, and it did. It looked amazing. His presentation of it was just... And he does a flower really well. Like he did the lotus the other week, and then he did the flower, and it looked amazing. They said it also cut beautifully. The thickness of the crepes was nice, and Bruno was very pleased to tell everyone that it wasn't too heavy on the rosewater. Rosewater, I don't know why people really try desperately hard to make rosewater work, because it usually doesn't. And
well, it's just Turkish delight flavour.
And that's the thing. Like I like a good Turkish delight, but to be honest with you, you can go overboard on rosewater with Turkish delight. It's Turkish delight. It's supposed to be overboard. So
I just want to go to Auburn now in Sydney. There's like a Arabic place.
Miscellaneous City.
Yeah, in Sydney. That makes their own Turkish delight, and it's so good. And like I've had it warm from there, and it's just so delicious. Like it's just I know I'm going on the weekend.
So anyway, Mangling.
Maybe tomorrow.
As I said, Rochelle said that it didn't reflect your crepe skills if you have to cut them. They also said you could hear the thing crunch on the cut, which was a problem. They said it was also...
You say problem. I say feature.
I know. They said that it was they were too thin to then hold the filling as well. And Mingling goes, no, they weren't. I just put too much cream in there.
Maybe she thought she had to double up because Dan's gone, there's cream in it. And she's like, yes. And there's cream inside. And so she's like doubled up her filling.
Actually. Maybe it was that conversation with Dan. Andre. Look, Andre. They said the texture was amazing. They said the layers are ridiculously clear. Even without the different colours, which I liked, he went with a single tone. Yes. But you could clearly define each layer.
And then...
Exceptional flavour. And then Bruno...
said, voulez-vous coucher avec moi?
Ce soir.
Yeah.
And he said, well, Bruno spoke in French. And
he did.
I can only assume...
Which is a delight to all.
Yeah, now I can only assume. Now, it was the best French that... It was probably the best French I've heard since...
He said, je ne sais pas pourquoi.
Sure.
Bless you.
I'm trying to get some Kylie Minogue in there too.
It's not going to work.
No.
When
she was wearing the hatless brim. No, the brimless hat.
The hatless brim.
No, that was her skirt.
Hatless brim, everybody. Yes. Hatless brim.
Oh, dear.
Now, it's the second best French I've ever heard. The best French I have ever heard remains. Look, you might be cool, Bruno.
Oh.
But you'll never be Sebastian Tellier levels of cool. If you've never heard of Sebastian Tellier, go and watch some Eurovision. Type in Eurovision Sebastian Tellier and enjoy. And marvel at his beard. Marvel at his long hair.
His ability to drive a golf cart.
Golf cart onto the stage at Eurovision while holding a beach ball. Why? Why not? The man is just ridiculous levels of cool, and he has recorded an album with Dita Von Teese, and I am not joking.
No.
The man is the coolest Frenchman. I'm sorry. I know you're a French Canadian, Bruno, but again, the coolest person speaking French I've ever seen. So, Bruno, very close, however.
You know what's going to happen next year on Bakeoff?
Eurovision, please.
Julia and Dan are going to be standing there. Rochelle's going to be there, and they're like, "Where's Bruno?" And then suddenly this like golf cart goes in.
And he drives on in the golf cart.
Yes, bounces a beach ball into the pavilion.
That could be fun.
Yes,
and they've got the outdoor setting to have the beach ball too.
Yes,
they've got the umbrella. They've got the seats. That's quite cool. I like that idea.
Really, just see how they get the golf cart.
All right, so that was the first. That was the first challenge. Now we moved on from there to the technical.
Yes.
The technical were 12 mini joconde cakes. So the joconde sponge, a long-held Bakeoff staple, and by long-held Bakeoff staple, I mean the thing that always fucks up. And I can never work out why, because every time I've spoken to you about joconde, Robert, the first thing you say to me is they're quite easy.
Yeah, but I find really basic things very difficult, and then I can whack out a joconde, or I can do like macarons without a recipe, without even thinking about it. And
well, it's funny
I get ganache to work, but
which is joconde is not that tricky, but it always seems to be the thing that fucks up. I've never worked that out for the life of me.
There's a couple of things with joconde. So you've just got to make sure that A, you don't overwork it, right? So you don't end up with a tough one. You don't add too many eggs. You don't add too much like general crap to it, and keep it really thin. As long as it's really thin, you're fine. The problem with it being super thin is if you overcook it, you end up with a biscuit. So it's very close to being a cookie, and it's a really tasty cookie. You're basically making a twirl just a bit thicker. So
you just mentioned the word twirl, and our mutual friend Mama Joe freaked.
She's just had the uncontrollable urge to jump out of a window, and she's not sure why.
She doesn't quite know why.
It's like when someone walks over your grave, that cold shiver just runs down her back.
But yeah, it's not that difficult. All you have to do is just like, once you've got the pattern scraped out, if you chill that down, then you can put the other thing over top of it, like the actual joconde sponge over top of it, and there's no great issues. Right? But where it stuffs up is if you're working to a time limit, you're likely to not chill it down between like the color and the layer over the top. You're likely to overheat it, or you're likely to overwork it, or get too much flour in it. And then you'll end up with a tough piece of rubber, or like Sachin did, you just end up not quite measuring it right. And usually you're pairing it with some sort of moussey thing, and if you don't set your mousse, you're screwed.
As we found out tonight. And what was really interesting about that was that the person that fucked the joconde sponge up, well, they fucked it up most obviously. The person who fucked it up the most was Meng Ling. We'll come to that in a minute. But the person who obviously fucked it up, surprisingly, was Andre.
He's had a bad bake.
Who had probably his worst bake that he's had.
Yeah.
When none of them stayed together and they all opened up. And he was panicked from the moment when he did the first wave, and he's like, that's not working. And he did it again. He's like, it's still not working. And you could see he became flustered when the first lot of joconde didn't work. And so he got behind the 8 ball. And as you said then, that's when the time pressure starts. And once the time pressure starts, you're in a bit of trouble. Or as Meng Ling said when they said joconde sponge, go, oh boy.
Oh my God. I so want a Meng Ling soundboard. Just how awesome would that be?
I just want her narrating my life.
I think my favorite part of all of that, though, is like they're like, oh, it's half an hour to go, and your mousse and joconde should be in the fridge setting. And she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it was like the instructions were now specifically for Meng Ling. You should be putting everything in the fridge by now. And Meng Ling, oh, thank you.
I'll do that.
So what I liked about this one was all the way through this show, the recipe has been non-existent.
Yes.
Well, they fixed that.
They overcorrected.
Bloody long, as Megan said, it's longer than most books I've ever read. It was like they're flipping pages and they're turning it over, and it was like this long thing.
Pop-ups, like little things that, like the little pull tag, and like something would move in the page in the children's pop-up books.
Yeah, waving.
like a little haunted house and the ghost would pop up.
So Meng Ling shocked Dan in the latest episode of Gadget. When she turned around to Dan and said, I've made this before, and Dan went, what? And then she paused and she went, I normally make it over 3 days. And Dan started laughing, went, so not with like a time pressure at all, Meng Ling? And she's like, no. I love that she gets that tremor in her voice too when she does it. It's like, no.
There's a lot of things to do for Nimbus, like
take her for a walk, bake his cake, all of those things. Now dealing with gelatin. Gelatin is another one of those ingredients. As Megan said, which endeared her to us even more. I have never made jelly that doesn't come out of Le Box.
I love Megan.
So cool. So that was quite Cool.
Okay, so gelée, is that just French for jelly, or is that a Canadian thing, or is it a...
No, it's a Frenchy thing.
Yeah, she was just being Frenchy and calling it jelly.
Like,
she was calling jelly gelée because it was Frenching it.
I just thought it was like someone on the eastern suburbs, maybe here in Sydney, going, "Oh my god, I'm so gelée." Like,
it's totally the Chimay private school girl of jelly.
It really is.
It's like totally a thing.
And now we want to use something formal.
Totally.
So gelatin, it's a bitch. And surprisingly, it didn't trip anyone up. I mean, a couple of them didn't have the gelatin quite as firm as I think they would have wanted it when they were trying to cut it.
No.
You could see that when they're trying to cut the rounds, and some of them were cutting the rounds properly, and some of them just had the rounds sort of forming into like parallelograms. But the gelatin's always
miscellaneous other shape.
Yeah, miscellaneous shape B.
It's like what if you've got sickle cell anemia, you've red blood cells. Okay, sorry.
No. You go highbrow for a change and stop.
Well, I don't want to.
You want to go.
Actually knows something.
You want to get back bad English.
She knows some medical jargon. Ooh, look at this one here.
Yeah.
You start describing blood cells, and you're like, "Oh no, I do that." Meanwhile, put on a South African accent for us, and it's horrible.
Oh, that's fantastic. What if I put...
What the hell?
Hold on, what's my New Zealand accent?
That's a great New Zealandish accent. Brilliant.
Who the hell knows what a South African accent sounds like anyway?
Certainly not you.
So now that we're talking about the South African accents, let me tell you more about sickle cell anemia. It is a very unfortunate blood disorder, and it can cause a lot of problems for people when they hop on an airplane. Anyway.
We have finally, ladies and gentlemen, we finally have a good impression.
Hey, you got to hang out with Raisa last year. Like,
that is true.
She doesn't have that kind of South African accent. Oh, she's too proper. She's so lovely.
She's
so lovely.
So, hey, Raisa. Now what we got in this show was what I referred to as the new Long March. So previously, forget now, forget communism.
Okay, does that make Julia Lady Mao?
So what we got instead of the Long March with Mao or any of those sorts of communist things is Mengling trying to walk the tray of gelatin to the fridge. It took forever.
I really want to see that part.
And she's like, I probably should have done this closer to the fridge. Go gadget arms is the instruction, Mengling. Go gadget arms.
I now know where all of her moose setting time went.
That's why she couldn't take the containers off. She took an hour of the challenge to walk to the
Which
fridge.
is why she needed Julia and Dan just to go, it's half an hour now. You might want to have your things
in fairness, that was a bitch of a challenge because you've got to try and make and set mousse and make and set jelly in 2 hours or however long they had. Yeah. It's a tough challenge. I'd say, joconde's nice and easy, and it's not that difficult. But when you're trying to make jelly and walk it at a glacial pace towards the fridge and make a mousse as well, it's a lot.
Why didn't anyone think of, I'll take the pan to the fridge and then take my... Maybe they weren't allowed to for OH&S or...
No, you absolutely are. It's just nobody thinks of it. In that time, you're so focused on your bench, you do everything on your bench, and then you're like, oh, fudge crumpets, I've got to take it to the fridge now.
Requirement to rapidly set the jelly.
And you've got your kitchen set out in the triangle where you can easily get to your fridge and your bench and everything.
Okay, that seriously stuffs you up when you're not used to it. So I had all these things planned for, like, getting back to a crepe cake, all these things planned, and what screwed me up was I was not near the microwave. So I was making, like, mousse... I was making mousse and all sorts of different stuff for the inside of it, but also I had 2 different ganaches going on. And... trying to melt gelatine in the microwave, melt chocolate in the microwave, melt chocolate again in the microwave, and then keep everything at a temperature so that it can all be incorporated.
Using one pan.
Yeah, well, using one pan while you're doing the crepes meant bolting from the back of the shed to the front of the shed, from the back of the shed to the front of the shed. And in the end, I ended up not even using half of it.
Because the producers need to get in Lillian Molliger Braith. Okay, she might be dead, but she actually.
But get her in anyway. Let's exhume the body. Great. I'll bring a shovel.
We'll get a Ouija board in. We'll just...
The lady had some good ideas. Surely we can get some more out of her. Let's beat this dead horse. Yes, I said horse. Next, what? Anyway.
No, that's not posthumously.
Posthumously. Anyway.
It went out.
Anyway, back to the shed. Back to the pavilion. So...
What would be a post-Thomas? Like, is that...
What would be a post-Thomas?
The hummus you serve on the Day of the Dead.
That's what happens after you go and get a kebab.
Post-Thomas.
So meanwhile, back to the pavilion. Back to the pavilion, Meng Ling put a cake in the oven and wished them good luck. I'm not sure if she was wishing her cakes good luck or if that was more aimed at just herself, maybe. Good luck,
People
me.
around her.
Good luck, me.
Yeah.
Now, cutting that joconde into then the smaller strips makes it really fraught with danger. Because once you start breaking the joconde down, you've got nowhere to go.
Well, wouldn't it have been logical to have got a piece of baking paper at that point and, like, measured it?
It would have been logical to do a lot of things that didn't happen in this episode.
That would be the ideal trick. So you run the baking paper around the outside of the mold so that when you lay it on the cake, you've got very slightly more than you need, like Bruno said, so that when you pick it up and stuff it into the mold, you've got a little bit of play there. And if you have to trim some, you can trim some, but it'll just squidge in.
So Meng Ling's jelly didn't quite set properly. Andre's cakes, however, were distracted from that because they started falling apart. And at this point, Meng Ling looked over at Andre's falling apart and made the decision, if his are falling apart, God knows what's happening with mine. I'm just leaving them in the tin. So I can only assume that what happened was Meng Ling just looked at Andre's and went, if he's having that problem,
I'm fucked.
I don't know what's going to happen to me. I'm going to have a soup.
Yeah.
So she just went, no, not going to do that at all. So she didn't remove hers from the tins. Sachin's didn't close properly either. So you had like a gap in some of Sachin's. His mousse was a bit more set.
Yeah.
So in the judging, Sachin's, they said the mouse was too... The mouse. This is
You're
how
a mouse.
I am getting everyone back on track. The moose was
on track. I was talking about what post-Thomas means.
We were exhuming bodies.
And bringing back Lillian Gilbraith. It's fine.
I'm bringing Lillian Gilbraith back. What? So Sachin did close. The mousse was too soft. The flavour was still good. Meng Ling. Now, this is where Rochelle used the phrase, this baker's had some big-time challenges.
That's so mean.
Yeah. Now, as we said when we were watching it, they didn't like it, so they had to take a ring off it. You know,
it's the follow-up.
It's the follow-up single.
It's Beyonce's divorce. Ode to divorce.
Ode to divorce.
Devastating.
Didn't like it, so you had to take the ring off it. Didn't like it, so you had to take the ring off it. No, it's oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So
oh no,
no. They said that the mousse was liquid. Megan's had a nice pattern. The mousse had body, and it held really well. Now they seem surprised that a mousse held. This was a problem for me because I felt that the problem with this challenge...
ranty afterwards. You're like, I'm just not happy with this challenge.
Well, to be fair, I felt that the challenge was probably more about the time than anything.
Chris, haven't you learned anything from the past, 8 weeks of Great Canadian Bakeoff?
No.
The technical sadistic bitch. They're like, haha, we will give you more recipes.
Yeah, but
this time we give you less time and more things to set.
But they legitimately didn't think anyone was going to finish it. The purpose is to finish, surely.
Is to show you
and the fact that they seemed shocked that somebody finished it meant that in their mind it was like really cutting it ultra fine to time.
So there would have been a test kitchen somewhere with a couple of poor PAs assigned the task. Yeah. It is definitely possible. So they get people who aren't especially amazing at baking, or like someone from the crew to go through and test everything first. They're probably baking for someone who's not really that thrilled to be eating it, but yeah, sure. But I'll guarantee you that there's some PA or food person who runs through it, and it is achievable. Otherwise, they wouldn't have said it. But yeah, that was a bitch of a challenge.
Now,
and I'm sure these have been made, or something similar has been made before.
Pierre was crying at home probably, because if you remember season 1, the first challenge, Pierre made one of these in large scale, and it fell apart. And Pierre, when it fell apart, but the thing was, Pierre had a bit of what we now refer to as a Mengling reaction, which was he looked at it and went, "What happened? It fell apart." He didn't hide it. He's nah, didn't work. Didn't say it. Oh well, bad luck. Andre, by the way, his collapsed, as we saw, but the flavour was really good. I was happy that they put Mengling's 4th and Andre's 3rd, because while Andre's did collapse, the only reason why Mengling's didn't was that she didn't take them out of the mould. Yeah. So as they said in the judging, Mengling, we don't consider these are finished because you didn't actually take them out of the mould. That's fair. I don't have a problem with that. That's accurate.
Well, it'd be like if you might have decorated the cake, but it's still in the fucking pan. You know?
Yeah. So obviously,
you've never done that, Robert. Just rocked up. You know, oh, it's still in the pan. Why? I'm afraid of it collapsing, but it's prettily decorated.
No, I did turn up somewhere with a Mexican in a sombrero. It was a beautiful carved cake, and prior to all that I was able to bring with me was the head and the hat. The rest of it had to be carved out of foam because I had the body collapse twice. And
bring me the head of the Mexican.
But they still had a good cake. It was all right, but it just collapsed under the weight of the head. So yeah, I'm much better at construction now. But
what a party!
So Mengling was 4th, Ray was 3rd, Sachin was 2nd, and Megan was, for me, quite far out in front.
Yes.
Which led to Mengling with one of my favourite comments that she had in this episode. It was great to have a nice gadget moment where she looked down the camera and went, "I'm only a little bit behind Andre," which is true.
Find the positives, man.
Find the positives. So she also then said the next morning, "I'm not going to compare myself to others." And Mengling, I think I speak on behalf of the audience when I say no risk. No risk of comparing yourself to anybody else that was in that pavilion.
Unfortunately, there's the one time that she's like, "I'm nearly in line with Andre." Andre was falling apart and on fire. Yes.
The important. There's no risk of comparing yourself to anyone else, Mengling. One of a kind. Absolutely one of a kind.
It's like when I was a trivia host and I used to get the new teams fucked in their head when I'd go, "And you're first in reverse." Like, "Woo, we're first." Oh, in reverse.
Congratulations. 3rd. Yay! All right. So the challenge, the showstopper.
Oh.
36 savoury canapes. Yes, they're canapes.
Canapes.
Oh, that. Okay. If you want to hear us rant on that, go back and listen to some of the MasterChef Australia episodes where we rant about the fact that they kept on calling them canapes.
Oh my God, Gary. I love Gary, but holy shit, can that man mangle the language?
Yeah. So
and then George, that just goes without saying.
So 36. So 36.
Canapes.
Yeah.
Canapes.
12 puff pastry, 12 tarts.
Canapes.
Sorry.
Canapes.
They're sounding too much like cannabis, and I know Canada's made it legal, but still.
You're looking forward to the Great Canadian Bakeoff.
Thanks to the Great Canadian Bakeoff. So 12 puff pastry, 12 tartlets, and 12 finger sandwiches. Or as Megan called them, 36 little things.
Technical.
It's accurate. Now, Andre decided with his sandwiches he wasn't going to mess around. He was just going to knock up a rye bread, as you do.
Rye bread.
A quick rye bread. Quick bread, rye bread, holiday inn. No. If you want to bake it, then you'll take your friend. No. Activated charcoal happened.
Yes.
Yeah, that's always a great food additive. You've got to enjoy a food additive which can affect birth control and things like diabetes medication like metformin. Oh, my delicious bread, it's black. Yes, sure, I'm now pregnant and having I've lost a foot from diabetes, but my bread is black. Yeah.
What happened?
In fairness, you have to eat a lot, but still.
Did you sleep with somebody else? No, I had a black sandwich.
But doesn't it also help, like, with...
To be fair, having a black sandwich sounds, yeah. Anyway.
Sounds
moving on,
worse.
that's what she said.
Moving on. It's a world of cheese. Megan, and a world of cheese. World of cheese.
Okay,
So,
world of cheese.
The charcoal crostini, the cream cheese tartlets.
I think I'd like to live in a world of cheese.
Wouldn't we all? And the
We'll build a world made of cheese. Sorry.
And the candied prosciutto vol au vent, which just sounded really nice. I love a good vol au vent. I'm a bandit for a good vol au vent.
Yeah, you are. You can only cook the salmon ones when I'm not home, though.
Yeah, I love a good salmon vol au vent. And I can't do it when Kristie's around. Funny enough, again, not a big fish eater. Love a salmon vol au vent.
Right there with you.
So,
salmon cream cheese bagel with like.
Oh, I can do that.
Good. Oh yeah. And again, not a huge fish person, but still. Anyway, back to canapes.
Oh,
I'm now stuck in vol au vent. Anyway,
yeah.
I don't mind chicken and mushroom vol au vents. I had one of those with the Lord Mayor of Sydney when I was given my scholarship in Year 6, and I got to sit next to the Lord Mayor of Sydney, and across from me was Paul Hogan's first wife. What's her name? Linda Hogan. She was lovely, all dressed in her best.
Yeah, vol au vents, or as the rest of us know them, that finger food from the 80s.
Yes, exactly. It was 1989, 1990. No, maybe a bit later than that. Anyway, so...
Yeah, but again, it's Australia, so it checks out.
Yeah. But the best thing is that gazpacho soup was served, and I totally did a lister or a rimmer. And I wondered why the soup was...
So my vol au vent story, and I've told it before on the podcast, but the first time, one of the first times when I was eating out, and I decided to do something a bit different as a child, and I went, I might have the chicken and mushroom vol au vent. Food poisoning, 4 days.
Oh, God.
That's the way to go.
4 days. I still walk past it. I know where that cafe is. It's got brand new owners. It's been rebuilt. It's not even close to what it used to be.
See?
I still can't go in there.
I look at a vol au vent and I'm thinking, well, if you're going to like put a melty kind of inner into something and eat it, why not just make a cob loaf? Like,
I do know that you believe that all these things begin and end with cob.
They do.
See, I like the flaky pastry on a vol au vent, and I actually like pulling the rings apart as you go. And so you get the crispy bit at the top, and then you get a crispy with a bit more of the soggy bit on the inside as well. So you get a little bit of soggy, a little bit of crispy.
You get the same with like a cob loaf, but it's bigger and easier to make.
And it's a cob loaf, and we know you love a cob.
And we know you love a vol au vent.
I love a vol au vent. This is the sort of to and fro you get in this relationship. Anyway.
Welcome aboard to the podcast, Robert.
At this point.
Where do you sit? Cob or vol?
Cob or vol.
Wow, it's such a tough decision.
Cob or vol?
I love cob loaf, but I can't go past a vol au vent because it's just easier. It's a self-contained food. Like a cob loaf, you've got to chase it around the party. A vol au vent, you can take it with you. Unless, like, seriously, vol au vents are easy. They're like self-contained and brilliant, whereas a cob loaf...
Nobody's taking the vol au vent off you again.
The only reason why...
Exactly. Whereas I've got to chase that bastard cob loaf around the party, and it's my favourite thing. And then I feel like I'm a pig because I'm sitting there trying to hog the cob loaf, and I'm just like, no, there's no way to do this delicately and get as much cob loaf as I want. Whereas if I grab 4 or 5 vol au vents, no one's going to look twice at me. But anyway,
cob loaf around a party before. I have also followed, the only other food I've ever followed around a party is at work. The hospitality people make amazing sausage rolls. I'm not a big sausage roll person, but they make incredible sausage rolls. They are the most edible thing I've ever had.
They're only made once a year.
And so when they bring them out, I follow them, and I've got all the people serving. But I've got all the people serving them conditioned now that they know that when I'm there, they leave the kitchens and come straight to me. So I can grab a couple, and then they go around, and then I follow them and just pick a couple more as I'm going. And just sort of, as they're going back into the kitchen, they usually hide one extra like under the sauce dish so that I can get the last one off the tray as well. They're really good like that. I'll get the recipe. Back to this,
you always got to make friends with the wait staff. Anyway, next.
However, because this is where Sachin talked about he was making 2 different types of doughs. Now,
and back on Baking with Sachin, 2 different types of doughs.
Yes,
and
Sach in the kitchen. And here on Sach in the kitchen, he introduced us to a new martial art.
Oh, that's right.
Tart dough.
Patwazi.
Not taekwondo, tart dough. It is the brand new martial arts sweeping the baking community.
Hey.
Stand back. I know tato and origami. So,
and at this point, Julia did her little voiceover where she went, all the bakers are making what they're supposed to be doing, except one baker has decided to do things their own way. Cut the gadget.
What are you making here, Mengling?
It's not a dough.
Rice.
It's
rice.
It's not a dough. It's just rice. And then Bruno's like, well, what are you doing with it? Is it sticky rice? No, it's just rice. And how are you flavoring it? Salt. That was the. And Bruno's looking at it going, anything?
Look, you have to understand by this point, right? Mengling's seen how it's gone down with Devon, and who else had the booze? Tim. Someone else had booze going on. She's just like 3 sheets to the wind, right? She is just like fucking cruising along. She's like drunk whatever's been left in the booze place in the kitchen. And she's like, fuck it, I'm going to do fucking rice.
What she needs to do is she needs to get a career setting up a franchise of Moss Burger.
Yes, I was going to say, this is just like Moss Burger. So you got a Moss Burger and in Japan or in the eastern states in Australia. Because I don't. There's one coming to Perth. Coming soon to Western Australia near you.
Apparently coming to Millennia City too. So
excellent. Yeah.
I love the Moss Burger. So Moss Burger is burgers. Some of them are normal burgers and some of them are rice buns.
Yep.
And they're incredible.
Except she wasn't going for a bun. She was going for a tart case made of rice, which sounds okay, but she would have been better deep frying it than just kind of grilling it or baking it, because it would have been like eating dried rice.
Well, that's what Bruno basically said. It was like, this is like really crunchy and dry. And
if you're not doing something like,
no flavour.
The Persian rice that's awesomely crispy, like you're not pouring like shit tons of butter in it to get that beautiful crispy flavor, or like some saffron or whatever they put into it to make it amazing. What's the point? It was
literally just dried rice, and it was like, not really. Then she made the mini.
Not even like a tzadik or something. Yeah.
Then she made the mini sausage banh mi,
which looked amazing.
They looked really good, except for the bread apparently, and her Hawaiian pizza puff pastry.
Yeah, which is a grilled cheese sandwich as far as Dan's concerned.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So Dan turns around her and goes, we're doing a grilled cheese. And Mingling goes, oh, I didn't notice. I'm a genius. And Dan just looks at her like, you okay? And their show's going to be amazing. Like, how can it not be? Dan then also found his way, of course, to the cheese. As he tends to do when Megan goes, the whole world of cheese. And Dan's like, I'd like to live in your world.
Yes.
It's a good world to live in.
Agreed.
Now, Sachin decided he was making butter chicken vol au vents, which sounded amazing. I wonder if he thought about using Mama Joe's mix. That's Mama Joe's spice mix. Mama Joe, not sponsored of the show. We just really like her food.
True story.
True story. So check it out. Joe Kendry from MasterChef Australia. Check out her spice mixes. Again, legitimately, not sponsored.
Facebook.
Just go buy them and eat them. They're incredible.
Rub things on them. Rub them on yourself. Just lick it off each other. Not that I'm saying we've done that, because we haven't. But that's giving me some ideas.
It's not giving me an idea. I don't want to burn. Anyway.
I won't use the jerk chicken.
I think I'd be a bit offended if someone was rubbing mole on me. I'm like, are you trying to tell me something?
Exactly. Is there something I need to know about this? Jerk chicken again. No. Anyway.
So again, Mama Joe's, MAMAJOS.com. Moving on.
Go and look at seriously, people, look at it. You will not regret that. So Sachin was also making Havarti and chutney sandwiches, and the bacon and Gruyere tarts.
Yes.
Andre was going with a prawn ceviche tart.
Yes.
The apple and cheddar sort of the sandwiches, the ploughmans, and the Wellington vol au vent. Now, what I loved about the Wellington vol au vent was the French Canadian brought out the Wellington history joke, which was great. Where he's like, you know what, when you bring up Wellington to somebody who's French, I mean, we get a bit worried, we get a bit nervous, and it's so nice to see they've been able to heal after all these years. They've been able to heal, and Canada, and especially Canadian baking is the way which the British and the French are able to come together and bond over the historical events that took place at all forms of that battle, especially of course if you want to talk about Waterloo.
I was defeated, you won the war.
I was trying to avoid it so we didn't sing it, but anyway.
Waterloo, promise to love you forevermore. I'll find a key one day.
Maybe.
Not today. Today is not that day.
Today is not that day. Let's get to the judging, shall we?
All the vol au vents up on the shelf.
Before we get
Sorry.
I just want to put something out there for all the Harry Potter fans. How Queenie-like does Julia look this week? Like Queenie Goldstein from Fantastic Beasts and etc. movies. She just looks so Queenie. I just waited for her to grab a wand and just start doing her laundry, her delicates in the pavilion.
So, as I said, it was an interesting week. We get to the judging. So, Andre, they said that the cornmeal pastry that he made for the tart was absolutely beautiful.
Yum.
The shrimp was delicious. The ploughmans, they said it looked really bright with the colours, but the bread was a bit tough. They did say, however, that his beef Wellington vol au vent were delicious, and he said, you had me at foie gras.
But you know why? Because those are ploughman sandwiches. Ploughmen are very tough bread for tough men.
They should have actually used that as an excuse. No, along the lines of that's how we like it at home, which is always a classic.
It's always good to throw the toxic masculinity card up.
It really is. Works well. Suction. They said the sandwich was delicious and the tart was also great as well. They said that the cherry tomatoes were really good. The general flavour of the vol au vents was lovely, but needed more chicken.
And the detail on the bread.
Yeah, they said his detail on his bread was really
nice. Bit of seeds. I like seeds on crispy buns.
Meng Ling's, they actually said they actually said that Meng Ling's looked really nice and that the puff was well made. They said that the banh mi, everything about it was good except the bread, which was a bit dry. I did think that was kind of trying to damn with faint praise because it's a banh mi. So saying that everything except the bread in the banh mi is good is not really saying much. Those vegetables were quite fresh. That meat was quite good. How about that coriander?
What about that pate?
Yeah, and the bread. Well, how about that coriander? The rice tarts, they said the rice.
What I liked about the banh mi? It is a little throwback to French cuisine.
It was. That is true. They said that the rice tarts meant that the rice was hard and it was too chewy. Yeah. Megan smashed this out of the park.
She pleased us with 3 kinds of cheeses.
Didn't she all? Pleased us with cheeses. The presentation was amazing. They said the tart was a little bit chewy, but the flavour was amazing. The bread for her sandwich was absolutely incredible. And they said that the vol au vent, the pastry was sensational. And she's like, really? And Bruno's like,
eat one.
Eat one.
Like, how is it? She's like, good.
It's good. Now, again, I managed to write, before we got to the judging, I managed to write down what I thought was going to happen. Megan for Star Baker.
Yeah, I thought. That
was straightforward.
Sachin was up there. I do feel for Sachin because, every time he's, looking good, he's just, pipped at the post.
But Sachin's had, last week he got Star, and that was really good for him. But the problem's been that he's had these weeks where he's done amazing, and then he's fucked up one part of the bake.
Yeah.
And that's cost him every week. There's one thing that's been wrong.
I'm really glad that he's got through to the finals, though. He has been so solid and so consistent.
Well, I think we've legitimately got the 3 most consistent and solid people there.
Well and truly.
And so that meant we had to say goodbye to Gadget. Now, what was really important, as you pointed out, Nimbus.
At least Nimbus will be,
Nimbus gets a new range of bakes.
He does. He's like, oh my gosh, I haven't had a zillion of these before because there was a zillion bakes that she hadn't made before.
She's learned all of these new techniques that Nimbus can benefit from for years to come. So Nimbus is the real star of this show because Nimbus benefits.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the grand final. The grand final is Megan. It is Sachin, and it's Andre.
Woo!
I think it's a really good grand final. I think it's an incredibly skillful grand final.
It's going to come down to who doesn't fuck up on the day. because they're all fantastic bakers, and it's going to be the little things.
Yeah, every single one of them can be an absolute technical genius. Every single one of them can do super, super incredible creative detail. Yep. Every single one of them can balance flavors, and every single one of them can faceplant royally.
Oh yeah, so, it opens up a whole pile of It opens up a whole pile of issues.
Definitely the best three left in the shed, and the pavilion. But, yeah, in the pavilion.
It's our turn.
Yeah, but
copyright us.
Yep. So I'm completely devastated that we lost Mingling, because I would watch her read a newspaper. Like, I'd watch her read a phone book. She's just fascinating.
Yeah, well, with the amount of things going on, she would open the newspaper and say, "Oh dear, oh no."
She'd be the most accurate. Like, she'd be the best person to interpret Trump tweets. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't have to hear the tweet. You just have to go, "Oh dear."
Oh, that's it. I want a video feed of Mingling read Trump tweets. It's like a sketch from Not the 9 O'Clock News in the 1980s, and now a government statement on the recent unemployment figures, and they cut to Rowan Atkinson sitting at a desk, and he opens up the booklet and goes, "Oh dear, oh dear, dear, oh God," and I can see Mingling doing that.
Yes.
So
the other thing I want to point out is that if you're an aspirational baker, from anywhere in the world, but you happen to be in Canada next week on the 5th in Langley specifically, if you head to Well Seasoned at 6:30 p.m, Bruno is doing a bit of a demo of fall desserts. Yeah.
Nice.
Just plugging away, you know?
We're not talking about desserts that fall over. We're talking about for the season of fall.
Like autumn.
Autumn for the rest of the world, but fall for North America.
Yes, because the leaves fall off the trees.
They do. It's very literal.
Yeah, I guess we didn't get fall here because we have we don't have deciduous trees.
We got a lot of trees that get their leaves all year round.
What are they called?
So...
Perennial? No. Perenniums? No.
No, they're definitely not perennials. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Robert, for coming on. It's been an absolute delight to make you have to relive one crepe pan moments. But in all honesty, there was no one more fitting to get on to talk about this.
I mean, we could have got Claudia, but what's the fun in that?
What's the fun in that? Yeah. No, thank you for coming on, obviously. Anything you wish to plug?
No, just if you're really into your baking, check out robertscakesandcooking.com. I have all sorts of interesting recipes for cakes and stuff. I have a recipe for joconde sponge that doesn't suck.
Woo!
And if you're a super baking nerd, you'll know what a sugar lace mat is. And I've got a bit of a brief tutorial just on how to make a nice joconde pattern with a sugar lace mat.
And I would also highly recommend watch some of Robert's videos as well, especially when I love the way he's taking the walking into shot. It's really cool. Your most recent video where you walk into shot and like plonk yourself on the bench is absolutely brilliant. Never change. If
I was delirious. That was after 20 hours straight of being awake and a very tough day at work.
This is the commitment of this man to baking and craft. And if Robert wasn't so tired and obviously delirious, he'd also remind you all to go and check out the Food Nerd Vanity Project. It's a little side project that we've got going there where we quite often have people on to talk about, you know, at the moment it's Ugly Delicious. There's another episode dropping this weekend actually, with joconde again. So yeah, we get to talk all sorts of more serious food matters.
I'll do a couple of plugs too, the charity wise. So this year it's the last M&D Walk to Defeat Motor Neuron Disease.
What, that means it's done? You've won?
It'd be nice if we had.
The victory
I'd
needs
be
to
out
be
of
won.
a job. It's the only kind of area in the world. Well, I presume anyone researching and working to help people with, you know, fatal illnesses really want to be done out of a job.
They would like to be.
Yeah, in you know, what do we call ourselves? Unentitled city, whatever we are.
Miscellaneous city.
Miscellaneous city.
Unentitled city. Unentitled.
The words are just in my face.
Miscellaneous city is possibly the most entitled city of any city in Australia. But going on. So back to motor neuron disease, the walk to defeat motor neuron disease. Where do we go to give money? How do we make it work? Make it better for everyone. Tell us more.
Yes, so if you can't make it there, just head to MND New South Wales that's a place that maybe I work for and stuff that we'd like to help, we do some great work. We've got MND advisors, we've got equipment that we loan out, just all around lots of support groups as well. And then the other thing is your brother.
Yes, now I'm going to tweet this. I'm going to tweet this out. He's doing Movember, and he had a full facial hair.
Yeah.
And he asked, apparently, one of the guys who came up with Movember was actually in the office. That's who advised him. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So one of the guys who came up with Movember's become a worldwide thing, but it actually started here. And one of the guys who was the leading guys in that advised him that he didn't have to shave completely. He could actually just shave the beard off and grow the moustache out even more. And I'll put a retweet of that out so you can give to him and donate. It's obviously really worthy. But what I would suggest is that he looks very much like he's just discovered the new world. He's quite conquistador.
Look, if you're a Native American and you want to exact some revenge, just go and
donate to him and donate in order so he shaves it off.
Yeah.
So no, but it's again Movember.
I can't wait to see your brother with a full Fu Manchu. Like that's just awesome.
I'll send you. Well, you'll see the photos. But again, so I think it's movember.com.au. I think it's actually the website.
I thought it was bad enough. I did Movember a couple of years back, and I had the full Magnum PI going on. It was quite disturbing. Red mode, not great.
Being a woman coming to like my middle years, there is a good chance that I could get involved in Movember at some point. Okay, kid, let's gather around. Here's something they don't tell you when you're growing up, right? As a woman, when you grow older, shit that will happen. You get fucking chin whiskers. It's insane. And then like dandruff. Like, where the fuck did this scalp skin come from? Like, how am I producing this much scalp skin that just wants to all fall off? It's like, scalp skin you've produced for the past 35 years of your life just suddenly want to descend. So
what you're saying is next time you hand me a box of Lamingtons, maybe just do a bit more questioning first before I go ahead and grab one.
First of all, you think I'd cook you Lamingtons?
Speaking of Lamingtons, however, there were a couple of tweets to us in the week to point out that some Canadian baking publications, I think it was, some of the websites were talking about some of these new trendy ideas of things to make and bake. And one of them was Lamingtons. Now, I've passed on, I've mentioned this before, I've passed on a couple of Lamington recipes. I'd like to see some Canadians make some Lamingtons. It's not that hard to do. The ingredients aren't that hard to come by.
And I'd like to see some Australians make what's that pie thing? The tortilla.
No, I just want them to make poutine. But anyway, that's for That's for selfish reasons.
We can get home delivered poutine now, Robert.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, really?
That
would be amazing.
It is apparently real cheese curd, though. That's the positive.
Yes.
It's not just melted cheese. There is a food truck that was doing poutine at one point, and I checked.
There's a Canadian themed pub about an hour away from my house, but it's an hour away, and they do the best Caesar, like the Caesar drink, and they do the best poutine I've had in Perth, and it is good stuff.
Well, there we go.
Unfortunately, it seems to be fairly seasonal around like Canadian, Canada Day.
So yeah, past. Yeah. So basically, I'd like to see some Canadians attempt a Lamington. So if you attempt a Lamington, tweet it to us at The Washing Up. Also, go and check out. We still have our store open. You don't need to drink out of your hands. We're selling mugs.
Listen here, are you Australians?
All you people that have been cupping hot liquid in your hands for generations. Enough of that. We've got
might be the way your grandmother did it and your great-grandmother did it.
But technology is here for a reason.
Now there's a better way. Tired of cupping water in your hands? No more burns. Go now to The Washing Up and give us the address because we don't have enough to go here. Dental. Oh, yeah.
Commercials.
Yeah. Acme.
You have trouble opening a jar and you have this like silly white woman who's like opening it and then falls downstairs.
Catches fire.
We've also got tote bags, some stickers if you just want something small. But again, anything you can do to show us some support. We like support. We like you guys. So that can be really handy. So anyway, check all that out. Check out Food Nerd Vanity Project. That'll be out this week as well. Obviously, we've got the grand final coming up, and we might have a few things around the grand final as well.
Yes.
And we might have some things that are not necessarily around Canadian Bakeoff grand final, but we might start having a few things that are geared towards a certain Australian version of the same show.
Because hopefully
there are things in the pipeline. I am not saying anything else, but there are things in the pipeline.
I'll call the plumber.
Call the plumber. See if we can get it.
Enough about Chris's pipes. How about a dramatic singing of?
So we're going to leave you, and I'm going to leave you. We're going to leave you with obviously a farewell rendition. But just to sign off, thank you, Robert, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's always fun hanging out with my two favorite podcasting people.
Yeah. And I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
We will see.
I'm confused.
We will see you in the grand final. Take it away. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do do do. Inspector Gadget. Do 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 do.
And scene.
Catch you all later, everybody. Ciao.